Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about being mindful of our stories. So these are the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves or about others or the world, and how they can sometimes get in our way of being really present for what is happening, for the reality that is around us, and for how people in our lives are showing up. Because we're always looking for evidence of why the story we tell ourselves is playing out versus just observing and being present for what is happening in life. And these stories, they kind of go along the same lines as our expectations or our beliefs, but they're formed by past experiences, our ideologies, our kind of worldview of how we end up thinking the world plays out. So how we kind of predict people will behave, the labels that we put on them, and then how we predict what that says about what they're going to do to us or interacting with us, or how they'll kind of play out in our lives. But we also use them for like in our work. And we assume or tell stories about what are people gonna how are they gonna value us in work, or how is it gonna play out in our workplace for whatever it is, how long we stay, for how much we're valued, for how much our ideas get honored. All of that and so much more plays into our story of self, and our story of others. So we want to be really aware of those kind of stories we're waiting for in reality, that we're kind of looking for evidence for. And we can hear those by like those kind of always never statements, the kind of blanket statements we make about life, or like I'm never heard, or I'm never valued, or people always leave me. Whatever it is, that people are inherently evil or inherently good. Whatever it is that we say that kind of puts that blanket reality on life. And then, we watch, when I have that belief, it's something I say to myself over and over. I tell this story. And what we can kind of do is we can plop that story onto any reality. If you're looking for it and you believe it enough, you will find evidence for it in everything that you experience. So we'll look back on our life and we'll plop the story onto that. Look at how this happened and that it proved my story. Look at how these people behaved in this way, and it goes right along with what my story was of who I am, my place in it, their place in it, the world's place in it. And then, so we do that for the past, and we say, okay, well, that proves my story, and now it feeds it. And I hold it in the present, right? So in the present moment, I'm like, everything that I'm experiencing, I'm trying to fit it into this story. I'm never valued. Okay, I'm going to watch now for when people don't value me. And that's going to fit. I'm going to put the characters into my story. This is the guy who's not going to value me, or this is the person who's going to take advantage, or this is the person who's going to leave. And it's like, we label the characters in our story and we wait for the story to happen. And then we project our story into the future. And we say, okay, well, this is how it's going to play out. And if these are my characters in this story, this is what I'm waiting for to happen in the future. I know that this is going to happen in the future. And problem with that is like the same thing as self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because now we've put our characters into place. We're assuming that they're going to behave in this way or treat us in this way or that's going to play out in this way. And what do? Well, we start playing our role in the story. And we start behaving in ways that fit our character in that storyline. And whether it plays out exactly as thought or not, it comes pretty darn close because we start living in ways that reflect that. Our fears about it change our behavior around it, change how we interact with other people, how we show up ourselves. If we're afraid of not being valued, we probably don't put ourselves out there as confidently and as kind of non-aggressively as people would then heed our advice or our ideas. Same thing with like being left. If we're afraid of being left, how do we behave? We put ourselves into the character role of the person who gets left. And our fears around it make us act in ways that actually repel other people. So what do we do with this? When we know we all have stories, we have assumptions about how things are going to work or how they're going to play out. And the first step is always awareness. Notice what your story is. What is the story? It can start by looking at the past because that's probably the easiest place to see it. If you tell a story about your past, what role do you put people in and what role do you put yourself in? And what storyline are you playing out when you tell your past? Because we can tell stories in a lot of ways. We could highlight different aspects about our past or the past story, but we do it in a very certain way. And that certain way that we tell that past story reflects how we see ourselves, how we see others, and the kind of role we put everyone in that story. So you can start there. How do I tell my past story? You might even write it out, journal on it, and then notice, what role do I put myself in? And then you can take that story and you say, well, how am I applying that today? Where am I putting those characters and how do I see my role in that today of like victim, undervalued, not wanted, whatever it is. It could also be, we're kind of focusing on the negative ones because we're trying to move out of those, but you can have positive stories of self as well. But observe of how did I take that story and now where am I making it play out today? How am I looking for it today? Who have I put into those roles? And then how am I projecting that into the future, into predicting, well, what's going to happen if I put these people in these character roles? What does that mean that I am imagining the story will be in the future? And so when we kind of notice that, now we're aware and we start, well, you could start in the past too, but it's kind of nice to start in the present and say, okay, how I really do this is I want to be perfectly present for what's happening here and now without the story that I'm putting on it. And we can't do this, it kind of comes and goes, our awareness and our ability to do this. But in any one single moment, can I just be present for what is happening in this moment? So instead of saying, okay, this behavior by this person means that they're going to do this, and now I'm afraid in this way, so I respond in this way. But instead of saying it means that they're going to do this, can we just watch? What are they doing? And that most of the time, it's not leading to where we think, or it doesn't go down that same storyline if we're just present with it and we just observe, what are they doing in this moment? How are they acting? And how can I be present in the best way possible for this experience? Not based on the story I'm telling myself or how to avoid what I think is going to happen or how that's going to play out, but can I just be my best self for this present moment? And then instead of telling a story about it, we're actively participating in this reality. We are taking in the information of this experience. We're being present for this. And that's how we rewrite our story, is we show up the way that we want to, right here and right now, with who we want to be and how we want to experience it. And when we start doing that over and over, it replaces that old story we have told. So just by showing up, being the curious observer instead of the projector of a story, and always saying, okay, well, this means this is going to lead to this. This action is going to lead to this. He said this, so it means that. Letting all of that go and just being really present. What are they doing in this moment? What am I feeling? Who do I want to be? And how can I be that in this moment? How can I show up in this way? And then we show up as exactly who we want to be in each and every moment. And you start creating a different story, one where you are who you want to be, where you show up for the experiences in the way you would like to. And now we don't project anything onto everything. We just get to be present in the best way possible for what is. So I invite you this week to look into, what are your stories? Starting with the past, look how you put them into now and project into the future. And then ask yourself, who do I want to be free of that story? Just in this moment, who do I want to be and what do I want to be experiencing? And show up as the curious observer of what's happening around you and just being that version of yourself. If you enjoy these talks and have ideas about other ones, you can put them in the comments below. And you can also join us for group sessions and individual coaching, finding us at newleafmindfulness.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all very soon.